The great chamber of the Galaxy Council stretched out like a vast cathedral made of gleaming metal and crystal. 12 massive seats surrounded a central platform, each one designed for a different alien species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The air hummed with translation devices and the soft glow of holographic displays that showed star maps and trade routes across the known universe. Council Speaker Vexhai of the Zephyrian Empire tapped his long, blue fingers against the armrest of his chair. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he listened to the daily reports from various sectors. The routine was always the same: trade disputes, border negotiations, and the occasional request from younger species seeking guidance or protection. It had been this way for over 3,000 years, and Vexhai expected it would continue for 3,000 more. The Karathi representative, a massive creature covered in rocky plates, rumbled softly about mining rights in the outer rim. Next to him, the delicate Sistari delegate whispered about cultural exchange programs with her musical voice. The Bruthan war chief scratched at his scarred hide while discussing patrol routes near contested space. Everything was normal, predictable, and perfectly under control. Then the transmission cut through every communication channel at once. The sudden interference made all 12 council members stop talking. The holographic displays flickered and went dark. Emergency lights began flashing as the chamber's security systems struggled to identify the source of the interruption. For a moment, the only sound was the nervous clicking of the Mantari delegate's claws against his chair. "Honorable members of the Galaxy Council," a calm human voice said through the speakers. The translation was perfect, which meant the speaker already knew their languages. "This is General Marcus Chen of the Terran Defense Force. I request an immediate audience with your assembly." Vexhai's 4 eyes widened. The humans were supposed to be contained to their single system near the galaxy's edge. They were a young species, barely past their first space flights. The Council had been watching them for centuries, making sure they developed slowly and safely. They were not supposed to have technology that could reach the Council chambers. "This is impossible," whispered Councillor Thekvar, her crystalline body shimmering with alarm. "The humans lack faster-than-light communication. They have no knowledge of our location." The Bruthan war chief leaned forward, his massive frame creaking the reinforced chair. "Perhaps they stole technology from one of the border worlds." "Impossible," rumbled the Karathi. "Our security protocols would have detected any theft of Council-level technology." General Chen's voice came through the speakers again, still perfectly calm. "I understand this is unexpected. However, I am already en route to your coordinates. My ship will arrive in approximately 6 standard hours. I suggest you prepare for my arrival." The transmission ended as suddenly as it had begun. The holographic displays returned to normal, and the emergency lights stopped flashing. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Vexhai was the first to recover. "Impossible," he repeated, though his voice carried less certainty than before. "Run a full sensor sweep of the surrounding space. Find this human ship." The Council's most advanced scanners searched the empty void around their hidden station. For long minutes, they found nothing. Then, at the very edge of their detection range, something appeared, a single ship, moving faster than any human vessel should be capable of. Its design was unfamiliar, sleek but clearly battle-tested, with scorch marks along its hull that spoke of recent combat. "Where did they fight?" asked the Sistari delegate, her musical voice filled with concern. "There have been no reports of human military action." The Mantari's claws clicked faster. "More importantly, who did they fight?" The war chief studied the tactical display showing the approaching ship. "Those are energy weapon impacts. Plasma burns. The humans are not supposed to have plasma weapons." Vexhai felt a cold sensation in his chest. The humans were supposed to be using primitive chemical rockets and crude nuclear weapons. Their military should still be fighting with kinetic projectiles and basic explosives. The ship approaching them showed evidence of technology that was decades ahead of what the Council believed humans possessed. "Should we activate our defense grid?" asked Councillor Thekvar. The war chief shook his massive head. "If this General Chen can find us and reach us, he likely knows about our defenses too. Besides, he came alone. Either he is extremely confident or this is not an attack." "Then what is it?" Vexhai asked. Before anyone could answer, the human ship appeared on their main display. It was larger than their scanners had suggested, and its hull bore more battle damage than any vessel should be able to survive. But it moved with purpose and precision. taking a position just outside the station's defensive perimeter. A new communication request came through normal channels this time. General Chen's face appeared on the main screen. A human male with graying hair, tired eyes, and several scars across his weathered face. He wore a military uniform that was clean but showed signs of long use. "Thank you for accepting my communication," Chen said. His manner was polite but not subservient. "I request permission to dock and address the council in person." Vexhai exchanged glances with his fellow council members. This was unprecedented. No species had ever demanded an audience with the council. They had always been the ones to grant meetings when they chose to do so. "General Chen," Vexhai said carefully, "the Galaxy Council does not typically receive unscheduled visitors. Perhaps you could explain the nature of your business?" Chen's expression did not change. "I believe it would be better to discuss this matter in person, Council Speaker. What I have to show you requires your full attention." There was something in the human's tone that made even the war chief lean back in his chair. It was not threatening, but it carried an undertone of absolute certainty that was unsettling. The Karathi rumbled softly. "What guarantee do we have of your peaceful intentions?" For the first time, Chen's expression shifted slightly. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his features. "Counselor, if I had hostile intentions, we would not be having this conversation." The statement hung in the air like a challenge. The council members looked at each other, trying to decide how to respond. They were used to being the supreme authority in the galaxy. Species came to them seeking permission, protection, or guidance. They did not make demands or speak with such quiet confidence. "Very well," Vexhai said finally. "You may dock at Bay 7. You will be escorted by our security forces and scanned for weapons." "Understood," Chen replied. "I should mention that I will need to bring some equipment for my presentation. I assume your security personnel are professional enough to distinguish between weapons and data storage devices." Another subtle challenge. Vexhai's blue skin darkened slightly, but he nodded. "Our security is quite capable, General." The transmission ended and the human ship began moving toward the station. As it approached, the council members could see more details of the battle damage. These were not training accidents or minor skirmishes. This ship had been in serious combat against an enemy with advanced weapons. "I want a full analysis of that vessel," Vexhai ordered. "Find out everything you can about its construction, weapons, and technology level." The initial scans came back within minutes, and the results were disturbing. The human ship incorporated technology that was decades ahead of what they should possess. More troubling, it showed design elements that seemed to blend council-level science with innovations that were completely unfamiliar. "How is this possible?" whispered the Sistari. "We have been monitoring human development closely. They should not have this level of advancement for at least 50 more years." The war chief studied the tactical readouts with growing concern. "Those weapon signatures, some of them match council technology, but others are completely unknown." As General Chen's ship settled into the docking bay, Vexhai realized that everything they thought they knew about humanity might be wrong. The question was, how wrong and what else did these humans know that they were not supposed to? The docking bay doors sealed and security alerts began flashing as the scan results came in. General Chen was armed, but only with a sidearm that posed no threat to the station. More concerning was the equipment he carried: advanced data storage devices and what appeared to be evidence containers. "He comes prepared to prove something," observed the Mentari, his claws now clicking in a nervous rhythm. "The question is," Vexhai said quietly, "what does he think he needs to prove?" Within minutes they would have their answer. General Marcus Chen was walking through their corridors, escorted by guards who seemed suddenly very small and insignificant. Whatever the human general had come to say, Vexhai had the sinking feeling that the galaxy was about to change forever. The great chamber doors opened, and General Chen walked in alone. General Marcus Chen walked across the polished floor of the council chamber with steady, measured steps. His boots made soft clicking sounds that echoed in the vast space. The 12 alien representatives watched him with a mixture of curiosity and barely concealed superiority. They had seen many species come before them over the centuries, always seeking help, always begging for protection or guidance. Chen carried a single metallic case in his left hand. His right hand hung loose at his side, but the council members noticed he moved like a soldier who had seen real combat. There were no wasted motions, no signs of nervousness or awe at being in the presence of the galaxy's most powerful beings. "Honorable council members," Chen said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber without any amplification. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." Vexhai leaned forward in his chair, his 4 blue eyes studying the human carefully.
"General Chen, the Galaxy Council is curious about how you located our station and developed the technology to reach us."
"These are not capabilities we believed your species possessed." Chen set his case down on the central platform and looked up at the assembled aliens. "That is exactly what I came here to discuss, Council Speaker. It seems there are many things about my species that you do not know." The case opened with a soft hiss, revealing what appeared to be advanced holographic projectors and data storage devices. The technology looked sleek and sophisticated, far more advanced than anything the Council expected humans to possess. "If I may," Chen said, activating the projectors. The air above the central platform shimmered, and suddenly the chamber was filled with 3-dimensional images. Star maps appeared, showing the spiral arm where Earth was located. Red markers began appearing at various points throughout human space. "This is Kepler 442b, Chen said, pointing to the first marker. 17 years ago you sent a ship to survey this world. The crew placed monitoring devices in the asteroid belt and on the planet's largest moon." Vexhai's blue skin paled. "Those were classified Council operations. No species outside the Council was supposed to know about their monitoring activities." Chen continued, his voice remaining calm and professional. "The crew believed they were undetected. Unfortunately for your operation, a human mining vessel found one of your monitoring stations while conducting asteroid surveys. We reverse-engineered your technology and traced the transmission signals back to their source. The holographic display zoomed in on the asteroid belt, showing the location where the monitoring station had been discovered. Then it switched to show detailed technical schematics of Council monitoring equipment." "That is impossible," declared Councillor Thekvar, her crystalline body flashing with indignation. "Our monitoring technology includes self-destruct protocols. If discovered, it would have been destroyed automatically." Chen's expression did not change. "Your self-destruct protocols assume the discovering species lacks the technical knowledge to safely disarm them. We had been studying Council technology for 12 years before we found that station. We knew how to approach it safely." The war chief leaned forward, his massive frame creaking. "You claim to have been studying our technology for 12 years? How is this possible when you had no access to it?" "We had access," Chen replied simply. "You have been very thorough in your monitoring of human space, Counselor. Very thorough indeed." The holographic display changed again, now showing a timeline spanning the past 2 centuries. Dozens of red markers appeared, each one marking what appeared to be significant events in human history. "The Great Influenza Pandemic of 1918, Chen said, pointing to the first marker. "A disease that killed 50 million humans in a single year. For decades, our scientists believed it was a natural mutation of an existing virus." The display zoomed in on the marker, showing medical data and genetic analysis reports. "It was not natural," Chen continued. "The virus contained genetic modifications that were far beyond human capability at the time. It took us until 2019 to develop the technology necessary to identify these modifications." Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Sistari delegate's musical voice became strained. "You are making serious accusations without evidence." "I have evidence," Chen said calmly. He gestured, and the holographic display showed detailed genetic sequences. "This is the 1918 influenza virus. Notice the protein modifications in sectors 7 through 12. These modifications required technology that humans would not develop for another 80 years. The display split, showing the same genetic patterns in a Council bioweapon design template. This is from a Zephyrian biological research facility that we visited 3 years ago," Chen continued. "The patterns are identical." Vexhai felt his blood turn cold. The Zephyrian facility Chen mentioned was one of their most secure installations, located deep in Council space. If humans had accessed it without triggering any alarms, their capabilities were far more advanced than anyone had imagined. The 1918 pandemic was followed by strategic interventions at regular intervals, Chen said. The timeline continued to advance, showing more markers. The asteroid impact that destroyed our Tunguska research facility in 1908. The series of solar flares that disrupted our early radio communications in the 1950s, the computer virus that set back our internet development by 5 years in the 1990s. Each marker showed the same pattern: disasters or setbacks that had slowed human technological progress at critical moments. You have been shaping our development for over a century, Chen said, his voice still calm but carrying an edge of steel. Every time we approached a breakthrough that might have led to faster space travel or advanced communications, something happened to delay us. The Karathi rumbled uncomfortably. Even if these accusations were true, such interventions would be for the protection of your species. Young civilizations often develop dangerous technologies before they have the wisdom to use them safely. Chen's eyes fixed on the rocky alien. Protection? You call the deliberate murder of 50 million humans protection? The human population was growing beyond sustainable levels, the war chief said defensively. Some population control was necessary to prevent ecological collapse. Ecological collapse that was caused by your manipulation of our weather patterns, Chen replied. He gestured again and the display showed climate data spanning the past 5 centuries. You have been adjusting our planet's weather for 300 years. Droughts when you wanted to slow agricultural development, floods when certain research facilities needed to be destroyed, storms to disrupt military operations that might have led to faster technological advancement. The evidence was overwhelming. Satellite data, genetic analysis, weather modification equipment found on the ocean floor, communication intercepts, everything pointing to a centuries-long campaign of manipulation and control. We know about the mining operations you established in our outer system, Chen continued. The automated systems strip mining asteroids in the Kuiper Belt, the monitoring stations placed throughout our solar system, the communication relays you use to coordinate your activities. More holographic images appeared, showing council installations throughout Earth's solar system, bases on distant moons, hidden facilities in asteroid fields, and monitoring networks that had been watching human development for centuries. We know about your influence over human governments, Chen said. The strategic placement of your agents in key positions, the technologies you have allowed us to develop and the ones you have suppressed. The display showed a complex web of connections between various human organizations and off-world influences, names, dates, and communication records that painted a picture of systematic interference in human affairs. Most importantly, Chen said, his voice growing harder, we know that you have never intended to allow humanity to develop beyond a certain point. We have found your contingency plans. The final set of images appeared showing documents that made several council members gasp in shock. Strategic plans for complete human containment, including scenarios for orbital bombardment and biological weapons deployment if humans ever became too advanced or too aggressive. You have treated Earth as your personal laboratory, Chen said, looking directly at each council member in turn. You have decided when we live, when we die, how fast we grow, and how far we can reach. You have killed millions of us whenever it suited your purposes. The chamber fell completely silent. The evidence was undeniable, presented with a level of detail and understanding that should have been impossible for any species outside the council itself. Vexhai finally found his voice. How long have you known? We have suspected council involvement in human affairs for 57 years, Chen replied. We have had definitive proof for 34 years. We have been planning our response for 28 years. Planning your response? Asked the Mantari, his claws clicking nervously. Chen's expression remained completely calm, but there was something in his eyes that made even the war chief shift uncomfortably in his chair. Yes, Chen said simply. We have been planning our response. The holographic display faded, leaving only the human general standing alone in the center of the great chamber. The 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy stared down at him. And for the first time in their long lives, they felt something they had not experienced in millennia. They felt afraid. The silence in the council chamber stretched for several long seconds. General Chen stood motionless at the center of the platform, his hands clasped behind his back, waiting for the alien leaders to process what he had shown them. The evidence of centuries of manipulation and control hung in the air like an accusation that could not be dismissed. Vexhai was the first to recover his composure. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he leaned forward in his towering chair. General Chen, even if we accept your claims about past Interventions. Your species remains young and inexperienced in galactic affairs. The measures taken were for the protection of both humanity and the greater galaxy. Chen's expression did not change, but something flickered in his eyes. Protection, he repeated quietly. That is an interesting word choice, Council Speaker. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a small device. With a quick motion, he activated it, and new holographic displays began materializing around the chamber. These images were different from the evidence he had shown before. These were real-time displays showing star systems across the galaxy. If we are such a young and protected species, Chen said, perhaps you can explain these installations. The first display showed a star system on the outer edge of Council space. 3 planets orbited a yellow star, and around the middle planet a massive space station rotated slowly. The station was clearly human in design, angular, efficient, and covered with weapon emplacements. Councillor Thekvar's crystalline body flashed with alarm. That is the Rigel sector. Human vessels are not permitted in that region. Yet there we are, Chen replied calmly. Rigel Station has been operational for 12 years. It serves as our primary research facility for Council technology that we have acquired over the years. The display shifted to show the interior of the station. Humans in advanced spacesuits moved through corridors lined with equipment that clearly incorporated Council technology. Laboratories filled with scientists studying alien artifacts. Manufacturing bays where human engineers built ships using principles they should not have understood. This is impossible, rumbled the Karathi representative. Our sensor networks would have detected any human expansion beyond your home system. Chen smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. It was not a pleasant expression. Your sensor networks detect what we allow them to detect. We have been studying your surveillance methods for 3 decades. We know how to avoid them. The holographic display zoomed out, showing a much larger view of the galaxy. Red dots began appearing throughout Council space. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Each dot represented a human presence that the Council had never detected. 47 star systems, Chen said, his voice filled with quiet pride. 132 installations. 68 research facilities. 24 shipyards, 15 military bases, and 107 observation posts monitoring Council activities. The war chief rose from his chair, his massive frame towering even over the other Council members. You claim to have military installations in Council space? This is an act of war. War? Chen asked, turning to face the alien warrior. How can it be war when you never knew we were there? How can it be war when we have never attacked Council targets? Never attacked? The war chief's scarred hide flushed darker. You admitted to infiltrating our research facilities. We visited them, Chen corrected. We studied your technology and your methods. We learned from you, but we never destroyed anything, never killed anyone, never even announced our presence, unlike some species I could mention. The accusation hung in the air like a physical blow. The Council members exchanged glances, realizing that everything they thought they knew about human capabilities was wrong. Show them the shipyards, Chen said to his device. The display shifted to show massive construction facilities hidden in asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres. Human workers in advanced exoskeletons assembled spacecraft that dwarfed anything the Council believed humans could build. These were not the primitive chemical rockets and nuclear engines they expected. These were ships with sleek hulls, advanced weapon systems, and engine signatures that matched Council-level technology. The Titan yards have been producing our deep space fleet for 8 years, Chen explained. The Cerberus facility specializes in stealth technology. The Prometheus shipyards focus on our exploration vessels. We currently have over 3,000 ships in active service throughout the galaxy. 3,000 ships. The number hit the Council members like a physical blow. Some of their own member species had smaller fleets than that. Where did you get the resources for such massive construction? Asked the Sistari delegate, her musical voice strained with disbelief. From you? Chen replied simply. Every Council mining operation in human space has been contributing to our efforts for the past 15 years. Your automated systems are quite efficient, but they lack proper security protocols. The Karathi representative's rocky plates ground together as he shifted in anger. You have been stealing from Council mining operations? Stealing is such an ugly word, Chen said. We prefer to think of it as taxation without representation. You have been mining resources from our system for centuries without asking permission. We decided to take what we needed for our own purposes. This is outrageous. Vexhi's blue skin had darkened to almost purple. You speak of theft and infiltration as if they were legitimate activities. Chen's expression grew cold. And you speak of centuries of manipulation, murder, and control as if they were acts of kindness. At least we never killed millions of your people to slow your development. The chamber fell silent again. The holographic displays continued to cycle through images of human installations, showing a level of development and expansion that should have been impossible. Hidden colonies with millions of residents. Research facilities studying technologies that humans should not have possessed. Military installations that could threaten council supremacy. How many of you know? Asked the Mantari delegate, his claws clicking rapidly. How many humans are aware of our existence? All of them, Chen replied. We announced the truth about galactic civilization 15 years ago. Every human on Earth and in our colonies knows about the Council and the other species. They know about the manipulation and the murders. They know about the centuries of control. Impossible, whispered Counselor Thekvar. Mass disclosure would have caused panic, chaos, societal collapse. It caused anger, Chen corrected. Humans do not panic when they learn they have been lied to and controlled. They get angry. They get motivated. They unite against a common enemy. The word enemy seemed to echo in the vast chamber. For the first time in millennia, the Council faced a species that did not see them as gods or protectors, but as opponents to be defeated. You must understand, Vexhi said, his voice taking on a pleading tone. The Council's actions were taken for the greater good. Young species often develop dangerous technologies before they have the wisdom to use them responsibly. Like nuclear weapons? Chen asked. The technology you allowed us to develop in 1945? Nuclear energy was necessary for your advancement, the war chief said defensively. Nuclear energy, yes. Nuclear weapons, no. But you wanted us to have weapons that could destroy our own planet. You wanted us to be dangerous to ourselves, but not to you, Chen gestured. And the display showed declassified documents from the 1940s, communications between council agents and human governments, discussing the strategic value of nuclear weapons development. You encouraged the development of weapons that could wipe out our species, Chen continued, while suppressing the technologies that could have taken us to the stars peacefully. You wanted us to be trapped and self-destructive. The nuclear weapons were meant to teach your species about the dangers of advanced technology, Vexhi said weakly. They taught us about the dangers of trusting aliens who claimed to be protecting us, Chen replied. The holographic displays shifted one final time, showing the most shocking image yet. A massive space station orbited a gas giant in an unknown system. The station was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Council's own command center. Hundreds of human ships moved around it like insects around a hive. This is Olympus Station, Chen said. Our primary command and coordination center. It has been operational for 6 years. It coordinates all human activities throughout the galaxy. The station was a marvel of engineering, clearly built using a combination of human innovation and stolen Council technology. Its weapons arrays could threaten entire fleets. Its sensor networks could monitor activities across multiple star systems. Its manufacturing capabilities could produce warships at an incredible rate. From Olympus Station, we monitor every Council military movement, Chen continued. We track your trade routes, your communications, your strategic planning sessions. We know about your contingency plans for dealing with dangerous young species. We know about your weapons of mass destruction. We know about your secret research into technologies that could exterminate entire civilizations. The Council members stared at the impossible station in growing horror. They had been watching humanity for centuries, believing they had complete. General Chen paused at the chamber doors as they began to slide shut behind him. For a moment, the Council members thought he was leaving, that the unprecedented meeting was over. Then he turned around and the door sealed with a soft hiss that seemed to echo through the vast space like a prison lock clicking into place. Actually, Chen said, his voice carrying across the chamber with crystalline clarity, there is one more thing we need to discuss. He walked back to the center platform, but this time his movements were different. The careful politeness was gone, replaced by the fluid grace of a predator who had decided it was time to stop pretending to be prey. Council Speaker Vexhi felt his 4 hearts begin beating faster. General, I believe we have covered all the relevant— No, Chen interrupted. his voice cutting through the alien's words like a blade. We have not covered the most relevant point of all. The human stood in the center of the platform, surrounded by the 12 towering seats of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. But somehow in that moment, he seemed to loom over all of them. You have spent this entire meeting trying to justify your actions, Chen said, his voice growing harder with each word. You have called it protection. You have called it guidance. You have called it necessary intervention for the greater good. He gestured toward the empty air where the holographic displays had been showing human suffering across the centuries. 50 million dead from your engineered pandemic. Thousands more killed in your strategic disasters. Entire generations stunted by your technological suppression. Brilliant minds lost because you decided they were advancing too quickly. Chen's voice remained steady, but there was something building underneath it, a pressure that made the air in the chamber feel heavy and dangerous. You have called it many things, he continued, but you have never called it what it really was. General, Vexai said nervously, perhaps we should discuss them. You invaded our home. The words fell into the chamber like stones into still water, sending ripples of shock through every council member. Chen's voice had not risen, but somehow those 5 words carried more weight than any shout. That is not how, the war chief began, rising from his chair. You invaded our home, Chen repeated, his voice growing deadly quiet. You entered our solar system without permission. You placed monitoring devices throughout our space without consent. You interfered with our development without authorization. You killed our people without provocation. The human began walking slowly around the platform, his eyes fixed on each council member in turn. For over 3 centuries, you have treated Earth as your property. You have acted as if our system, our planet, our entire species belonged to you, as if we were specimens in your laboratory, to be studied and manipulated at your discretion. Chen stopped walking and stood perfectly still, his presence somehow filling the entire chamber. Earth is not your laboratory, he said, and his voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. Earth is our home, the only home our species has ever known, the world where our ancestors lived and died and dreamed and built everything we have become. The Sistari delegate's musical voice was strained when she spoke. General, you must understand that the Council's mandate requires us to monitor and guide developing species, our home, Chen continued as if she had not spoken, where human children played in gardens that your weather manipulation turned to dust, where human farmers watched their crops die in droughts you created to slow our agricultural development, where human researchers saw their life's work destroyed in disasters you engineered to prevent scientific breakthroughs. His voice began to rise, not in volume but in intensity. Our home, where human parents watched their children die from diseases you created, while you sat in your chambers debating whether our population was growing too quickly for your convenience. Chen turned to face Vexai directly, and the council speaker felt as if those human eyes were looking directly into his soul. You invaded our home, Chen said again, and this time the words carried the accumulated rage of an entire species. You came into our sacred space, the place where we bury our dead and raise our children and dream our dreams, and you decided it belonged to you. The chamber was completely silent except for the soft sounds of alien breathing and the nervous clicking of the Mentari's claws. Every human who ever died, because of your interference, Chen continued, his voice growing stronger, died defending something you can never understand. They died defending the right of their species to exist without your permission, to grow without your approval, to reach for the stars without your consent. Chen walked closer to Vexai's towering seat, and the council speaker found himself leaning back despite his position of authority. You think you understand warfare, Chen said, looking up at the alien leader. You think you understand conquest and invasion and the price of victory, but you have never had to defend your home from someone who thinks they have the right to decide whether you live or die. The war chief shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The council has faced many military challenges over the millennia. Have you ever had enemies in your nurseries? Chen asked, turning toward the massive alien warrior. Have you ever had to explain to your children why strangers from space think they have the right to kill them for the crime of being born? The war chief's scarred hide paled and he said nothing. Have you ever watched your planet's weather being manipulated by aliens who decided your crops were growing too well? Chen continued, his voice like an avalanche gathering speed. Have you ever seen your greatest scientists die in accidents that were carefully planned by species who thought your discoveries were coming too quickly? Chen turned in a slow circle, addressing each council member in turn. Have you ever had to tell your people that the stories of their gods and heroes might have been influenced by aliens who wanted to shape your cultural development? Have you ever discovered that your most sacred beliefs might have been planted by invaders who thought your natural spiritual growth was proceeding in the wrong direction? The questions hung in the air like accusations, and none of the council members had answers. You invaded our home, Chen said for the fourth time, and now his voice carried the authority of judgment itself. You violated the most sacred space that any species can possess, the place where they are born, where they grow, where they become who they are meant to be. Councillor Thekvar's crystalline body was flashing with distress patterns. The council's actions were taken with careful consideration. Consideration? Chen's voice finally rose, echoing through the chamber like thunder. You gave consideration to killing 50 million humans in a single year? You carefully planned the murder of our children? The raw pain in his voice made even the war chief flinch. Every human who died because of your actions died in their home. Chen continued, his voice breaking slightly. They died in the place they thought was safe. They died surrounded by the people they loved, never knowing that their deaths were planned by aliens who saw them as nothing more than numbers in a population control equation. Chen closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened them again, they held something that made the council members' blood run cold. You invaded our home, he said one final time, his voice now perfectly calm and infinitely dangerous. And every species in the history of this galaxy should remember what that means. He looked around the chamber one last time, meeting the eyes of each council member. Because now, he said quietly, we know where you live too. The threat was not shouted or emphasized. It was simply stated as a fact, and somehow that made it infinitely more terrifying than any declaration of war could have been. Chen picked up his case and walked toward the chamber doors. This time, when they opened, he did not look back. He simply walked through them and disappeared into the corridors beyond, leaving 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sitting in absolute silence. For the first time in their long lives, the council members understood what it felt like to have someone invade their sense of safety. For the first time in millennia, they felt what it was like to be afraid in their own home. And in that silence, they began to realize that the galaxy would never be the same again. The council chamber remained silent for several minutes after General Chen's departure. The 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy sat motionless in their towering seats, each lost in their own thoughts about what they had just witnessed. The humans' words echoed in their minds, and the weight of his final threat settled over them like a suffocating blanket. Vexhai was the first to break the silence, his 4 blue eyes blinking in rapid sequence as he tried to process the magnitude of what had just occurred. Emergency session, he said quietly, his voice barely carrying across the vast chamber. Seal all communications. Activate privacy shields. The chamber's walls shimmered as advanced shielding technology activated, ensuring that no signals could enter or leave the room. The council members were now truly alone with the terrible knowledge that everything they thought they understood about their place in the galaxy had just been shattered. This changes everything, whispered the Sistari delegate, her musical voice strained with fear. If the humans have the capabilities they demonstrated, if they have been watching us for decades, then we are no longer the supreme authority in this galaxy, rumbled the Karathi representative, his rocky plates grinding together nervously. We are simply another species, and one that has made a very powerful enemy. The war chief rose from his massive chair and began pacing around the chamber, his heavy footsteps echoing like thunder. We need to assess the immediate threat level. If they have military installations throughout council space, if they have been monitoring our activities, they know everything, the Mantari delegate said, his claws clicking in rapid, nervous patterns. Our defense plans, our weapon locations, our trade routes, our political weaknesses. They have been studying us while we remained blind to their presence. Vexhai felt a cold certainty settling in his chest. The humans had not come to the council seeking anything. They had come to deliver an ultimatum, and they had the power to enforce it. The chamber doors opened with a soft hiss, and General Chen walked back in. But this time, he was not alone. Behind him walked 12 figures in advanced military uniforms, each carrying equipment cases similar to the one Chen had brought. These were clearly other human military leaders, their bearing and scars marking them as veterans of conflicts the Council had never known about. "I apologize for the interruption," Chen said, as he walked back to the center platform, his voice carrying the same calm authority as before. "But I realized there were some details I forgot to mention." The human officers spread out around the chamber, setting up their equipment with practiced efficiency. Within minutes, new holographic displays were materializing throughout the space, showing real-time tactical information that made the Council members' worst fears seem optimistic. "This is Admiral Sarah Martinez," Chen said, gesturing to a woman with silver hair and ice-blue eyes. "She commands our deep space reconnaissance fleet. Admiral, would you please show the Council our current position assessment?" Martinez activated her devices, and the chamber filled with three-dimensional star maps showing the galaxy from a perspective the Council had never seen before. Every Council world was marked in red, surrounded by indicators showing human ship positions and surveillance networks. "We currently have eyes on every major Council installation," Martinez said, her voice carrying the precision of a military briefer. "Our stealth reconnaissance ships have been monitoring your activities for 15 years. We know the location and capabilities of every military base, research facility, and government center in Council space." The war chief's scarred hide flushed darker. "This is an act of war." "You have violated the sovereignty of 12 different species." "Actually," said another human officer, a man with cybernetic implants along his jaw, "it is exactly what you did to us for 3 centuries. The only difference is that we are not murdering your civilians to slow your development." Chen gestured toward the officer. "This is Colonel David Park, our intelligence chief. Colonel, perhaps you could share some of the more interesting information we have gathered about Council activities." Park's equipment projected new images into the chamber. Classified Council documents, strategic planning sessions, and private communications between Council members. The level of detail was staggering, showing that human intelligence operations had penetrated the highest levels of galactic government. "We know about Project Suppression," Park said, reading from a holographic display. "Your ongoing plan to identify and eliminate any species that might challenge Council authority. We know about the extinction protocols, your contingency plans for wiping out entire civilizations if they become too advanced." The documents floating in the air showed planning sessions where Council members discussed the complete destruction of species that had grown beyond acceptable limits, weapon specifications for planet-killing devices, biological warfare plans designed to eliminate entire populations while leaving their worlds habitable for Council use. "We know about the harvest worlds," Park continued, and several Council members visibly flinched. "The civilizations you have completely enslaved for resource extraction. The species you have reduced to agricultural slaves to feed your empire." More images appeared, planets where alien populations labored under brutal conditions to provide resources for the Council. Entire species that had been conquered and broken, their freedom destroyed to serve Council needs. "Most importantly," Park said, his voice growing colder, "we know about the final solution protocols. Your plans for humanity specifically. The final set of documents appeared, and they were the most damning of all. Detailed plans for the complete extermination of the human species, once they reached a predetermined level of technological development. Biological weapons designed specifically for human physiology, orbital bombardment strategies for reducing Earth to lifeless rock. You were never planning to let us join the galactic community," Chen said, his voice cutting through the shocked silence. "You were planning to murder every last human being the moment we became inconvenient to manage." Vexai tried to find words, but none came. The evidence was overwhelming, presented with a level of detail that proved human intelligence capabilities far exceeded anything the Council had imagined. "But that brings us to why we are really here," Chen continued. He gestured toward another human officer, a woman with burn scars covering half her face. "This is General Lisa Thompson, our strategic planning chief." "General, would you please present our terms?" Thompson activated her equipment, and new holographic displays replaced the intelligence briefings. These showed something that made the Council members' blood freeze. Detailed military assessments of their own defensive capabilities, with human tactical plans for defeating them. The Terran Defense Force has developed 3 primary strategic options for dealing with the Council threat, Thompson said in a voice that carried the authority of absolute military confidence. Option 1 is immediate preemptive strikes against all Council military installations, followed by occupation of your homeworlds. The tactical displays showed exactly how such an assault would proceed. Human fleets emerging from stealth positions throughout Council space, striking simultaneously at dozens of targets. Council defenses being overwhelmed by weapons and tactics they had never seen before. Option 2 is gradual pressure through economic and technological warfare, Thompson continued. We control enough of your supply chains and communication networks to cripple your civilization without firing a shot. The displays showed the extent of human infiltration into Council infrastructure. Communication networks that could be shut down. Trade routes that could be interdicted. Resource extraction operations that could be sabotaged. Option 3, Thompson said, and her voice carried a finality that made even the war chief lean back in his chair, is complete extermination. The same final solution you planned for us applied to every Council species. The tactical displays showed weapons and capabilities that should not have existed. Planet-killing devices that made Council extinction protocols look primitive. Biological weapons that could target specific alien physiologies. Technological viruses that could destroy entire civilizations from within. However, Chen said, stepping forward, we prefer option 4. A new display appeared, showing what looked like a treaty document. Complete withdrawal of all Council surveillance and interference operations from human space, Chen read from the document. Full disclosure of all manipulation methods used against any species to prevent future incidents. Formal recognition of human sovereignty over our expanded territory, including all 47 star systems we currently occupy. The terms were not negotiable. They were stated as facts, as conditions that would be met one way or another. In return, Chen continued, humanity will refrain from taking military action against Council territories. We will not interfere with your internal affairs. We will not seek revenge for past crimes, though we will never forget them. Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each Council member. You have 48 standard hours to provide your answer, he said. If you accept these terms, we will withdraw our surveillance networks and establish normal diplomatic relations. If you reject them,